afternoon, members of the media, and to the people of Bermuda. As your government, we believe in a Bermuda where everyone has a voice, and our strength lies in listening to those voices when they speak about what is needed. We believe that each of us can contribute to shaping our island's future, and that we can work together to craft people-driven, people-focused policies that improve the lives of every Bermudian. In our economic development strategy, we pledge to slash the red tape and bureaucracy that makes it harder for local and global business to operate in Bermuda, and to modernize outdated regulations that make it harder for businesses in Bermuda to grow. We know that the best ideas and outcomes come through stakeholder engagement, consultation, and collaboration. Over the years, to support business and economic development, we have asked the private sector organization to submit suggestions regarding regulations that could be streamlined or reduced to boost economic activity. Unfortunately, before this exercise, the government only received limited responses. Therefore, we determined that expanding consultation was necessary to ensure we fully understood which regulations were causing obstacles to business activity in Bermuda. On the 16th of March, the red tape consultation was launched on forum.gov.bm to hear directly from the people about the challenges and the barriers they face. The original closing date for the consultation was the 30th of April, which gave residents just over 6 weeks to share their ideas, experiences, and opinions. However, due to the positive number of submissions received in that initial period and the potential for even more impactful ideas from the public, we decided to extend the consultation period. The consultation officially closed on Friday the 10th of May with 95 submissions from members of the public, including streamlining specific government processes, expanding online services, and helpful suggestions on outdated laws. The submissions from the public have been broken down by ministry, with the majority of the submissions falling under the Ministries of Economy and Labor, the Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Transport. And the breakdown is as follows. Economy and Labor, 20 submissions. Transport, 16 submissions. Finance, 15 submissions. The remaining ministries, Cabinet Office, 8 submissions. There were 3 submissions each for the Ministry of Public Works, Ministries of Health, Home Affairs, and Legal Affairs. 2 for the Ministries of National Security and Youth and Social Development, and 1 for the Ministry of Education. The remaining 19 submissions have been categorized as general government policy or comments about government operations that did not fall under a specific ministry. After the consultation period closed, we received several submissions from local businesses through the Chamber of Commerce. These are being reviewed and collated and will be allocated to the appropriate ministries. We are truly grateful for everyone who submitted their ideas. Your voices matter. We are listening because you, the public, remain our most valued stakeholder. We know that consulting the public and following through on their feedback to make tangible changes works. We saw this when we established the minimum wage, our economic recovery plan following the pandemic, modernized outdated laws like the Distilleries Act, which prohibited distilling alcohol on island, which was part of the consultation during the pandemic, which is now the reality, and most recently, the corporate income tax regime. This red tape consultation will be no different. The government will take public feedback on board and consider how we can use it to improve efficiency and to promote economic growth that benefits Bermudian businesses, entrepreneurs, and workers. All submissions will now be shared with cabinet ministers to determine the next steps and how outdated processes, systems, or legislation can be modernized, updated, or in some cases, removed entirely. And I will report to the Parliament before the end of the session on the progress that has been made on these submissions. In addition to these efforts, we continue to focus on the other critical areas that support collective progress and prosperity. We are making it easier for Bermudians to start on the path of home ownership through the Mortgage Guarantee Program, eliminating duty for first-time homeowners, and also eliminating duty on mortgage transfers so persons can move their rate from one bank to another without paying anything to the government, making sure that they can achieve lower rates at some of our banks. We are following through with our promise to improve our roads infrastructure, and extensive road paving is taking place throughout the island. Digital fare media will commence in June on public transport, and new ferries are being constructed. Standard & Poor's recent reaffirmation of Bermuda's A+ long-term sovereign credit rating reflects our sound economic policies and the delivery of a balanced budget. The feedback received through the red tape consultation will help us further improve Bermuda's economic landscape. The government recognizes that there is more work to be done. So just as we consulted and delivered on the minimum wage, legal reform, economic recovery, we will deliver on reducing red tape and improving government services to support further economic growth. As I close my remarks today, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who participated in the consultation and contributed their ideas. This is not just about removing barriers to business success. It is also about creating opportunities, fostering a more inclusive economy, and progressing towards a better and fairer Bermuda. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions that members of the media may have.
Mr. Brown, have you read any of the recommendations yourself?
I read through all of the ones which came in online. I was actually engaging them regularly, and being a part of the I said to extend them because there are actually some really good ideas and feedback, and I didn't want to cut it off very quickly. So we were supposed to end on April 30th. I asked the communications team to put out another release to make sure that we can get more, but I did read them while they were coming in, and I was grateful that so many people did reply. I have not gone through all the ones that came in from the Chamber of Commerce late, but everything that came in online, absolutely.
Any that you can share that stood out to you?
Well, what's important is that everyone could go ahead and look at what is there online currently, because forum.gov.bm, and just for background and history, this was a pledge in our 2017 election platform where we said that we would move consultations online in a public sphere so that people can go back and forth, comment, and add their views and suggestions. So yeah, there were some things that came through this round, such as streamlining process for registering professionals with public bodies, online tracking, a lot of things relating to online services, which we know is something that is a particular focus of the government this year as we focus to improving government services. And there were some other ones, such as like modernizing legislation around pyrotechnics and fireworks to, you know, improve public safety, but make these businesses operate efficiently. So there's a number of things that are on there. Anyone can go ahead and view and read. You cannot add new comments because the consultation is closed, but you can see all the submissions that were made.
Thank you very much. That's it.
Thanks, Cooper. Mr. Finnegan?
Thank you, Premier. Good afternoon. Just a couple of questions. First of all, could you give a timeline on this? You mentioned that you'd be reporting to the House during this session, but obviously it's going to take time to, I don't know if legislation would have to be drafted to abolish certain regulations and rules. So let's say in the next couple of months you've decided on, okay, we're going to scrap this bunch of rules. How long do you think that'll take before it comes into effect?
It could vary. I mean, certain things are matters of implementation. So we're speaking about things on online services or some things that can be done quickly. Those may take a matter of months or a little bit. If there's things regarding laws, those may take a longer period of time. The report that I'll give to Parliament will be after the ministers have reviewed. It will be a question of these are the matters that we're going to advance from the consultation. Grateful for the feedback because we may not agree with all the things that were made. There were some submissions that actually will increase red tape. We're asking for more regulations in certain things. So not everything that was submitted will form part of the work, but I want to make sure that I give my ministers the time to review with their departments to figure out which ones we can advance, to give realistic timelines so we can add that to the work of which we're doing. Because we have to remember our throne speech pledge this year was serving the people and improving the delivery of government services. Oftentimes, I don't use as many government services as persons of the public may use. And so I want to hear from them, their views and experiences. And I shared with Cooper, there were some really good suggestions that came in and we wanted to make sure we could get some more.
What sort of impact do you think this has the potential to have? I mean, to what degree do you feel that red tape and bureaucracy and outdated regulations is holding back businesses and stifling development and growth?
Well, I think that we've made progress thus far on reducing red tape in a number of areas. But I also think that we can go further. And I think it's also important to recognize that this is not the first public consultation the government has done surrounding ideas from the public. And the public should feel gratified and should feel confident that we actually have followed through on past items. So if I look at what happened, for instance, during the pandemic, where we put out 2 specific consultations, just drawing attention to some of the things that were implemented. I had mentioned one inside of my statement. This was a submission online, which came in from Kristen White, someone you know from St. George's, who had said that we should revise distilleries legislation. That is now part of law. There was persons who did things about modernization of transport, matters that we're advancing. There was a question about extension of tourist visas. This was something the Minister of Education, the Minister of Economy and Labor did last year, talking about the conversion of our bus and ferry fee. Those things have been advanced. There was another one that came in on bullying and harassment at work. Those were things that were legislated in 2022 by the Minister of Economy and Labor. And when we're talking about a short-term unemployment benefit, which is something that the Minister responsible for financial assistance will be bringing to the House of Assembly Friday after next. And there is another suggestion, which was advanced by the former Minister of Finance, and that we're finishing, in regards to changes to private pension regulations, because persons online said that they were being charged too much for their private pensions. This is something the government has taken on board, and we'll be bringing legislation to fix that. So things have happened. They may not always happen quickly, but the most important thing to note is that the government is listening to the suggestions which come in, and the best way to find out the challenges, just like we knock on doors when we go canvassing, is to reach out directly to business owners and the citizens to find out their views.
Okay. Just one final question. The OBA has been banging the drum about red tape and the need for it to be cut for a year or more. It seems that the government has only picked up on it more recently, sort of this year. What would you say to claims that this is a case of the PLP stealing the OBA's clothes or stealing its thunder? Or
I certainly wouldn't go, I wouldn't necessarily agree. I wouldn't agree with the fact that we've just picked on this last year, as if you look inside of our 2017 election manifesto, there were a number of things as far as streamlining government services that we did deliver on. If you look at the consultation that was held during the pandemic about things about law changes and other items, we have delivered on. If you look at, just for a perfect example of the red tape that was involved in land licenses, a process that took about 50 steps, which we simplified to 17, based on feedback from private sector organizations to make sure those processes got streamlined as well. So I don't believe that it is correct to say that we're just focusing on it. What I recognize as leader of the government is that we have been intensely focused on policy, on law changes, on making sure that we make significant and fundamental reforms. At the same time, I think that we need to have more focus put on the matters of delivering service to the public and making sure that works as efficiently as possible. It's one thing to change laws that people appreciate. People appreciate the fact that there is increased benefit for young people to have daycare assistance. They appreciate the fact that people can access Bermuda College. They appreciate those things. But if those things are not easy to access, then it defeats the purpose. And so we need to work on the implementation as much as we do on actually change the laws and the policies. And that's our focus this year. Great.
thanks so much.
Thank you. All right.
Very much. Are there any final words at all before we close out today's press briefing?
The only thing I can say is I want to again thank members of the public who did participate. What I will let persons know is that there will be further consultation in the future. You can always go on forum.gov.bm. There are consultations there which are currently running. Please make sure you add your voice to the conversation. These are read by members of the government. We do take into account what has been suggested, and there have been positive changes which have come from the suggestions like citizens like you. I hope that you have a wonderful afternoon, and happy Bermuda Day on Friday when it comes.